everyone, and welcome to another edition of Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand. My name is Lynette Jackson, and I'm your host, and I'm so excited that we get another opportunity to talk with each other about life, about business, about ministry, about things going on in the world. As you guys know, this April has been Financial Literacy Month, and I have been bringing guests in the month of April. That is all coming in, talking about finances and how we prepare ourselves for our future, which our guest is going to really help us with that today. So, as you guys recall, the first week in January, we had Miss Janelle Youngblood. She's a CPA. She works a lot with the nonprofits. She works with churches, mainly churches and ministries, and she really helped our church families prepare their finances and to keep them out of revocation, if you know what I mean. And then last week we had the money mender. We talked about, is your money broken? And systems and mindset about money. And so tonight we're going to talk about wealth. We have an awesome guest today that's going to help us build and talk about our future. All this and much more coming next. Sit back and relax on Speak Out Loud, the show.
You're watching Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand.
About that. See how modest she is, y'all? But let's go. So roasted crickets, I'm like, not eating that.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Every day showing up, even when you don't feel like it.
And now your host, Lynette Jackson.
Well, welcome back, everybody. And we are so excited to come to you with another edition of Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand. My name is Lynette Jackson, and some of you may know me. And for those that don't, I'll let you know who I am. I am an author, I'm a speaker, and I own Roar Media Group. Roar is a digital marketing company that helps its clients speak out loud in the marketplace with stunning graphics, websites, videos, strategic plans. And if you're interested in us helping you speak out loud with your products and services, you can log on to our website, roarmediagroup.com. I started this podcast because I wanted to help those that are starting in business, been in business, entrepreneurs, ministry leaders, authors, speakers, to speak out loud about what they're doing. And because there is always a story behind their why, a story behind the brand. And tonight's going to be so fascinating because our guest tonight has an amazing story behind the brand. Now, before we get started, I want you guys to see my shirt. My shirt, I was going to wear a different shirt in honor of this person, but I decided to wear this shirt. So this shirt says, "Dear Future, I'm ready now." A couple months ago in February, I was in Sri Lanka for 12 days working, and I went shopping and I found this shirt, and this shirt just spoke to me. It says, "Dear Future, I'm ready now." So my question to you tonight, are you ready for your future? If not, my guest is going to help you get ready. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to some and present to others, Mr. Robert Brickey. Hi, Robert.
Good afternoon, evening, Lynn. Lynette, I'm so glad to be a part of your show. Excited about it. I'm excited about what you're doing. And,
thank you.
You've got a really good vision. And I love the fact that when people are trying to help other people, that's what this world is all about. Take time to really honor and help other people. And a lot of times education is the key. One of my favorite scriptures, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." And you are trying to bring that knowledge to the people. So thank you.
Wow, Robert, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, let's just talk for a second. We met each other through a good mutual friend, right?
Absolutely.
Mr.
Yes.
Gene Banks.
Yes.
And so we're going to get into that story a little bit later. But before we do, I always ask my guests to give us what I call the 4 clarity questions. Believe it or not, Robert, most people can't answer this, but I'm going to ask you this. I know you can. I know you can. My 4 clarity questions are: who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And who do you do it for?
Well, again, Robert Brickey is the name. Who am I? That's a broad question, but I'd say child of God. That's a broad answer as well, but really a servant.
Okay.
A servant. I think Scripture says, "He that wants to be first shall be last," and you do that by serving others. So
That's good.
really, just a servant. That's who am I? What was the other questions? I forgot.
Why do you do what you do, and who do you do it for?
Okay, so I'm my technical title is investment advisor. So really, what that means is we have a company. We do most things related to financial services. So we do financial planning, we do investments and investment management, life insurance, how to maximize your benefits. We do benefits for certain companies. Medicare. So anything to do with finances and how to manage your finances, that's what we do. The reason we do it, the reason I do it is, I think particularly in our community, one of the things that we lack is knowledge, financial literacy. How do we make our tomorrows look better than our yesterdays financially? So again, that's a broad question, but we help you drill down to figure out what it is that you need to do to put yourself in a position to be successful financially. Really, I get up and meditate in the morning, and I have been challenged recently in my own life about what is it that I want from here moving forward with the time that I have left.
Oh, that's good.
And really, it came down to a few things: love, peace, happiness, freedom.
That's good.
I think, you look at all the conflict and all the things that go on in the world, in our country and across the world. And really, we all want the same things.
That's
right. We want opportunity, economic opportunity. We want freedom. We want to be able to love our loved ones and to love people that even that we don't know. We want to be a blessing in our community. So we all want the same thing. So when you have economic power, then you have an opportunity for economic freedom, which, everybody wants to be rich, but I want to be wealthy. I think wealthy is a combination of rich, healthy.
Yes.
And when you operate in that type of abundance, you bless others.
That's
so not just money is not the answer. Money and knowledge and love are the answers.
Yes, I love that. I really love that. It's a mindset.
Absolutely.
I think, and all of my 2 guests that have been on have talked about mindset, changing your mind about the things that we need to get done in our lives. I was just thinking about my guest last week. Was in college, and she had 19 credit cards and $30,000 in debt.
Wow.
And got out of debt by just having a system in place. And back then, do you remember Lotus 1 2 3 1 2? Was it 1 2 3?
Oh my God, the software.
The software.
Listen, it's been so long since I've heard that.
What? When she said Lotus, I had my spreadsheet on Lotus 1 2. I said, wait a minute. Did you say Lotus 1 2 3? Like, what? It's Excel now, of course, but of course, for anybody that's watching, Lotus 1 2 3 is equivalent to Excel back in the day, and that was the beginning of the Excel spreadsheet, right?
Right.
But she got out of debt and went to her church, just like we were talking about servanthood, right? She went to her church and she said to her pastor, "Hey, I just got out of $30,000 in debt, and I figured out some things that I can do to help out other people that may be in debt. So I'd like to come up a couple days a week." And she couldn't keep up with the number of people, and she just charged a small little fee just for overhead, and she couldn't keep up with the number of people that were in debt. And she said last week she didn't know she had a business, and she didn't know she had a ministry.
Right.
And as a result, she's been doing this now for 34 years.
Holy wow,
So
that is phenomenal.
that is phenomenal. So when you put your mind into the mindset of, I'm going to just go ahead and just help people. I want
Right.
to help, culturally, our people in our culture. I want to help them. I want to help them get through to what they're doing. It goes by fast. And what you're saying is, it's not just about money.
Right.
Money can really magnify what's on the inside of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Listen, and if you haven't challenged yourself or been challenged to really discover who you are, you might not like what's inside.
Right.
And trust me, I know a lot of folks with money who are miserable.
Who are super, super miserable. So money is not the answer.
Correct.
It is, like you said, happiness and peace. And so, and really having some wisdom, because I know people who, when they get a lot of money in their hands, Robert, they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And that's something we want to kind of drill down today on, is that they may, come into a big financial settlement or something like that. And because they have been a little bit of unlearned or not wise in dealing with their money, when they get a large sum of money in their hands, they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
I'm a consultant, and that's what I do. So I don't get a check every 2 weeks. I don't, I'm not waiting on my check to come every 2 weeks.
Right.
So when my money comes, I have to budget it. I have to spend it wisely. As my guest last week said, she doesn't like the word budget, but she likes spending plan. And that's really a great way of thinking about it, because you have to spend it.
Right.
But what's the plan that you have to spend this money?
Absolutely.
And so you have to be extremely wise and disciplined, or what's on the inside of you. So if you are just a person that is just out here, doing everything, when you get that money, you're going to magnify that, even more. So that's why I'm so glad that you are here tonight to help our Speak Out Loud audience learn a little bit about what is a wealth advisor, and when is it time to seek a person like yourself. But before we get started, let's talk about your background.
Uh-oh.
So guys, he's really super modest, right? So I was saying it earlier, I wore this shirt because of the message on it, but I would have worn a Duke shirt. I have Duke hats, I have Duke shirts. I've been to Cameron Indoor Stadium. And Mr. Robert Brickey, now what I read said that you led 3 teams to the Final Four back in late 80s to 90s. Is that correct?
That is correct. 88, 89, and 1990. We ended up losing the national championship that year, which was my senior year.
Was your senior years. And so you had an awesome opportunity to be coached by the great Coach K.
Absolutely. And people ask me a lot about those times and what I learned. And really, my response most of the time doesn't have anything to do with basketball. It has a lot to do with life. So, I'm an active observer of what he does and how he manages his life. Now, of course, Coach K in 1987 was not Coach K in 2022.
No, that's true.
he was on the rise at that time. And but I still watched and learned and how he managed his life. He had a lot of demands on his schedule, had a young family, had 3 young daughters. So how do you manage a high-level basketball program, the demands of being involved in that, as well as your family, the travel, the obligations, and still be able to have a family that functions properly? Because a lot of coaches, I remember, I cannot recall his name. He used to be the coach at Florida. God, this is in the 70s. He was a speaker, and I heard him speak several times, and he said, when I first got into, I was a coach for a long time. He told me this, I'll never forget. He said, be careful. Coaching is a poor mistress. I was like, what does that mean? He said, it'll take everything you got and won't give you anything in return. And I was like, so
that makes sense.
That was eye-opening in some degree, in some areas, but I never forgot it. And so, I had a chance to be a coach for a long time, blah, blah. And of course, in a way, I'm still coaching. I'm just a financial coach.
You're justified. That's such a great statement, because I was going to mention that, you've been coaching, you did some coaching after Duke. Where else did you coach?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. I coached at West Point, United States Military Academy at West Point, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, James Madison University in Virginia, Shaw University. I was back at Duke University on the women's side.
Okay.
North Carolina Central University. Then I coached in Canada a couple of years of the professional league. And most recently I coached in Raleigh. There's a new league called the TBL, which has really expanded. When I coached 2 years ago, there were 10 teams in it. I think there are 44 now. They're all over the place.
Oh, wow.
So I still have my hand a little bit in coaching.
Okay.
I love to teach the game, and I love working with young people. It helps keep me in a young mindset.
Well, just to let everybody know that he's just not some fly-by-night kind of Duke guy. So he was named the King of Dunk in the ACC. Talk about that. The King of Dunk.
Well, that was a time when I was a little younger and a little more athletic. There weren't a lot of guys who were high flyers back then. So I was one of the first ones. And so I dunked the ball quite a few times. So when you dunk the ball, you become a crowd favorite. So those were good times. I played with some really great players and had an opportunity to win a lot of games and do a lot of cool things. Basketball has been a great part of my life. And that's where it started. The notoriety from being a great athlete.
So yeah, basketball is a great part of his life. 1,299 points at the end of your Duke career, 649 rebounds. Wow. 3 Final Fours. I'd say it's a little bit a part of your life. A little bit a part of your life. So as I mentioned, we do know, I met you through a good friend of both of ours, Gene Banks. I went to high school with Gene. Gene was Duke All-American, went to play with the Bulls and the Spurs. And I produced a podcast for him. And I met you at the John Coltrane Jazz Festival last year.
Yep.
That was a really good concert.
That was a great show. They have done, I think that was year 11 last year.
Yes.
I've been to all 11.
No way.
Yeah. And listen, I think it's a hidden gem.
It is.
For jazz fans. And it's in North Carolina. And that's what surprises people.
In High Point.
In High Point of all places. Because usually you think, if I want to hear quality jazz or see a nice show, I have to travel out of state or across several states.
Or out of the country.
Right. And Joe Williams and his crew have done an amazing job of I remember year one, and it was good then, and how it's expanded and grown and how they've added certain components. And man, it's really a great weekend. So if you don't know about it, Coltrane Jazz Festival, look it up. North Carolina, in the late summer.
Absolutely.
And it's an amazing
event. I'm going to actually get Joe and have Joe come on and talk about this year's lineup and things like that. But last year was my first year, and it was so good to be out of the house and in the park, listening to live music again after COVID. It was just, the lineup was incredible. And so I'm really, I'm interested. I have to go out there and see who's going to be in the lineup this year. Yeah. I think I read a couple cool folks, but I enjoy Tito Puente. He was just phenomenal. Let's see, who's the bass player? Vaughn, right?
Julian Vaughn.
Yeah. And Kingfish. Oh.
Yeah. Was that? Oh yeah, they were really good. I never heard them. They were really good.
That guy was amazing, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's for those that love live music. First of all, it's outside, like you said, and then it's right by a lake, so it's really scenic and serene, and in a way you can kind of commune with nature. I think that's a way to.
That's a good way of putting it.
In the right vibe. So it's a wonderful event.
It is a wonderful, wonderful event. So I met Robert there. Gene and Robert did a live podcast from there. And so I was just thinking about great folks to have on the show. And I hit you up and said, Robert, would you please honor our guest and come on and talk about financial literacy? So let's talk a little bit about your family upbringing a little bit. And there's a reason why I'm talking about that, because I know that you said you coached at a military in the military, but also you come from a military family.
Yes, my dad was airborne at Fort Bragg 27 years. So
Wow.
he retired when I was around 10, but so for my first 10 years of my life, actually until I got to college, I spent a lot of time at Fort Bragg because
Okay.
Pre 9/11, you could access Fort Bragg very easily. We used to go out there, had 7 or 8 gym facilities on post, and so you knew where the ball players played depending on what day it was.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time just going to Fort Bragg playing basketball, and you could do all kinds of things back then. But that was one of the reasons I got to be a decent player was when I had 2 older brothers that were really good players, really good athletes, really good players. And of course, I was the youngest, and they used to just beat me up. And if you want to be any good at this game, you got to play against guys who are older than you. So I'm a skinny middle school kid. They would take me to Fort Bragg.
Wow.
And I would play with the soldiers. Now, these are grown men. I'm like 14.
Oh, my goodness.
And they would just beat me up. And I was like, evidently, I'm not very good at this game. But as I got older, and I kept playing against older guys, I had to be crafty. I had to learn how to have a level of success.
Mm-hmm.
I was tall, but I was skinny. I was weak. I was unskilled. And I just figured out ways to try to do things to help my team.
Okay.
And because they told me you can't shoot the ball. So that meant you had to rebound and defend. And my only time I could score was if I got a rebound and put it back in, or if I got a steal and went down and dunked it on the other end. And so that happened for about 2 years. That's all I could do. And then as I got older and grew up and started mature physically, I got a little better. So interesting start to my basketball career. But look, what's funny is a lot of parents ask me about their kids today.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them the exact same thing. You got to play against older, better competition.
Yes.
And it's going to make you or break you. And so,
and we don't want the breaking part.
Well, no, yeah, but I think even when it's tough, you learn things about yourself and you learn things about that are going to help you in life. How do you persevere when things are tough? How do you overcome? Right. How do you find a measure of success in a situation where the odds may be stacked against you? So a lot of life lessons could be learned in that.
A lot of life lessons. I remember starting the year this year saying, in my prayer time saying, hey, God, listen, I've been working, I've been doing this thing now, but I really want to walk 100% in my purpose this year. So please allow me to do that. And, just in my prayer time, you set the year, you set goals for yourself. And I tell you, this is what I felt the Lord said to me, Robert. He said, you have to go hard in the paint. And I was like, what is that?
Right.
Like, so you're going to talk basketball to me, but he knows that I love basketball. Right. I grew up around basketball. I've been around basketball, especially watching Gene because we went to high school together and he was All-American and, McDonald's All-American, things like that. So, and in Philly, there was ballers in Philly. I'm from Philly and there's straight real ballers there. Yeah. So we grew up, playing basketball in the street with the milk crate, on the telephone pole. That was our baskets. We didn't have hoops or going up to the playground and watching, the guys play basketball. But he said, you have to go hard in the paint. And I was just like, hard in the paint. He said, Lynette, you've been getting dressed and putting your uniform. First of all, you started attending the games. Then you decided you wanted to get into the game. And then you've been putting on your uniform, but you've just been running up and down the court. That's it. You've been running up and down the court. But if you really want to do this, you have to go hard in the paint. And because that's where the points are scored, right. And that's where the work is. And so that means that you're going to have to get rebounds and you're going to have to do assists and you're going to. So I look at this show as an assist.
Right.
Okay. You have to do rebounds. You're going to get elbowed. You've probably been elbowed 100 times,
Oh,
1,000 times,
more
knocked to
times
the
than I
floor
like to admit.
more
Right.
times than you think about it.
Right.
But that doesn't make you stop. In the hard times, you have to get back up and you have to keep going. So he was just letting me know because the game is a 2-point game. It's not really a 3-point game. I
Right.
mean, we get those when we can, right? But
Right.
it's a 2-point game and it's played. It's played in the paint.
Right.
That's where the action is. And if you really want to do that, you need to do that. So I'm saying to anybody, I'm going to say what God said to me. If you really, really want to get serious about your finances and serious about your retirement and serious about, you have to go hard in the paint.
Right.
And there's going to be times where you're going to get knocked and bruised and you're not going to like a lot of things, but you have to keep pushing. You have to keep pushing. So tell me, how do you think the game of basketball and your coaching helped you to do what you're doing now? And how did you start advising people on wealth?
I was a coach for a long time, and I got to a point where I was actually coaching in Canada, and I came home to visit my mom, and I realized she got to a point where she needed help managing her affairs. So I'm the youngest, and I'm not married, so both my brothers are married and live out of state.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'm gonna come home and help my mom, and so I gave up my coaching career at that time because I knew I couldn't travel like I needed to travel as a coach. So
Okay.
I needed to be closer to home. I was talking to one of my mentors who was an advisor. He started as an advisor in the 70s. Now, there are not many African-American advisors now. I could imagine only what it was like in the 70s. So
Right.
I was talking to him about my, what I needed, what I wanted to do next. And he said, "Hey, man, I think you'll be good in my industry." And so I really, prior to that, really had no knowledge or desire to want to be in the financial services industry. But as we began to talk, I said, you know what? I said, so basically it's being a coach on the financial side. I said,
Yeah.
so really, and the principles are exactly the same. So you're just
Wow.
transferring what I would do with a team to an individual. Sometimes that individual might be a family. So that's just a team.
That's a team. Yes.
In and of itself. So I really just help people figure out strategies on how to prepare to win the game.
To prepare to win the game. Now, I think did I read or did I hear once that you have a Series 7? Were you set for the Series 7?
You have Series 7, Series 66, 63, which are 7. Those are your federal and state licenses, which allow you to do security services on the state and national level. The 7 is national. 7 and 66 are national. The 63 is your state. So you have to be licensed and approved in your state, whatever your home state is, and then you can register in other states. So, and then also have life insurance, health, long-term care, Medicare, and there's one other one I can't remember.
So that means, hey guys, that means he's qualified to talk about what he is talking about today. He's definitely qualified to help advisors. So Robert, let's talk. I'm 60 years old, okay? And I'm there's days that I say to myself, when am I going to retire? Do I have to, it's like I have to wait to 62, or do I need to work to 67? And I know people who are in a position, I'm going to be that person who's going to work until they say, hey, go sit down somewhere. I'm just that active guy, but I know that there are people who have had to retire, early, that are their bodies and their health has broken down so bad that they literally have to say, oh my God, they're pushing the button at age 62 and just like, okay, give me my $4.50 because that's really kind of seems like what it is. They're not waiting to full retirement. Right. How does a person prepare themselves if they're 50, 55, 60, even 40? My oldest son is 41 now, and I'm like, hey, you know what? It's time to, you're living and existing and working, yes,
Mhm.
but it's time. I was laid off at 55, and I was like, wait a minute, what am I going to
Right,
do now? And
right,
then I
right.
realized too, after that, when I'm 55 years old, and they weren't hiring me anymore.
Mhm.
They were just saying, we're gonna bring in a 25-year-old to do
Right,
your job, and we're
right,
gonna pay them, you know, less, way less, more than 50% less than what we were paying you, because you're now at the top of your grade for
right,
what you're doing, and we're not doing it anymore. So thank you for your service.
right,
Goodbye. And I'm thinking, really, I can't get a job now.
right.
So, I had these skills, and that's how I started this company, because I was doing this on the side anyway. And
Mhm.
that's another story about how you can actually let your side hustle now become your main hustle.
Right, right.
Because now this is my main hustle. But, I really wasn't ready to stop working for corporate America at 55. And
Mhm.
there's some of us are out there that are in this position, and then some people who haven't even began to start thinking about the future.
Mhm.
Dear future, I'm ready.
Right.
They're not saying that. They're not saying, dear future, I'm ready, because they're afraid.
Mhm.
Talk to us about what we would need to do what's the first step that we need to do to prepare for our future?
Uh, again, it's just uh, funny because this is the same thing I would do if I was getting ready to play an opponent in a basketball
Okay,
game.
good.
First of all, what you do is you take inventory of what you have.
Okay.
So,
I'm gonna
uh,
take some notes here, because see, I'm a student.
and it, you know, and that means, okay, where are you today? I'm 50
Mm,
years old. I've got some money in the 401k. I'm work here. You gotta pull in all the data about where you are financially today. Where do I want to be, and when do I want to retire? So that's going to determine your timeline. So if I want to retire at 62, that gives me 12 years, or full retirement age at 67, that gives me 17 years.
mhm.
And then what I help people do is crunch the numbers, put together a plan so we can take a look at where you are today and make a projection on whether or not you are in position to retire and live the lifestyle that you'd like to live.
Okay.
And we can do that graphically. We do full financial plans, and you can see all the numbers and how they work out. And they have charts and all these graphs. It's pretty cool when it's all printed out. But and so in a way, it's very eye opening, because a lot of people don't think about retirement. They think, I'm working in corporate America. I'm putting money in my 401k. I'll get Social Security at some point. I'm good.
Mhm.
That may or may not be the case.
Wow.
And so what we help people do is to look at all that and say, hey, based on the facts, you have a 87% chance of living the lifestyle you want to live in retirement, or you got a 51% chance, and we need to make some changes right now so
Mm,
that we can increase that number to a 92, 93% by the time you get ready to retire. So
mhm.
it's just a really objective look about where you are and where you want to go in the time that you have before retirement.
I think I love the fact that you said take inventory. It's like every year you have to go get the checkup. You need to, for women, we have our annual mammograms. I mean, we
Right,
don't want to go do it, but we have
right,
to get it done.
right.
And so, what happens, what I see and I find, and I hear all the time, where people, even my own parents, they have gotten to a certain time and age of their life, Social Security, and cannot even afford to, because of their health,
Right.
cannot even afford to pay for their own medication. And as the economy is really, really, high now, and everything is expensive.
Hmm.
People don't have the opportunity to go and afford the things that they need.
Right.
Both my parents are deceased, but my mother had to come live with me.
Hmm.
And I supplemented her income, every month, to
Right.
make sure she had medication.
Right.
She had some policies. Now, back in the day, the insurance man used to come to the house with the book. Do you remember
First,
that? Do you
first of
remember
all,
that? Do
I haven't heard. That's the second term you've used today. I haven't heard in a long time.
The insurance man.
Around that
Listen,
little book.
with the book, Robert.
Yeah.
My mom, I mean, I'll never forget this guy used to come and she wouldn't let him come in the house. So if it was in the summertime, she'd let him sit outside on the front porch.
Right.
And he'd come take the policy payments, and the insurance man comes.
Right.
And he had that book, that big old book,
Mm-hmm.
He was old scruffy looking guy. He looked a little strange, but anyway,
Right.
he was that insurance man.
Right.
But she had the insurance man, and she had a lot of policies that she had paid in 2, 3, 4 times.
Right.
And I'll never forget when she came. My mother lived in Philly, and she came to move to Atlanta. She lived with my sister, and while she was living with my sister, I just said, listen, let me just look at your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got sick, and she had to go in the hospital, and she had congestive heart failure. And I had a ranch home, so she could not go up and down the steps, so she had to come live with me.
Right.
And so I became power of attorney, took care of all of her end of life things. And that was an eye opener for me, Robert.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared.
Right.
I was unlearned. I did not understand a lot. But one thing I did know was she didn't have enough money for her own burial.
Right.
Like, she did not have enough money. And I think that I've heard people, oh, at my funeral, I want y'all to do this for me.
Right.
And I want y'all to do that. I want a white horse and a carriage, and I want a white coffin, and I want all these things. And they don't have any insurance.
Right. Right.
And as Black folks say, the insurance. They ain't got no insurance, Robert. That's probably the third word I said that you haven't heard in a long time.
You're taking it back today.
But we're going to be real. But they don't have insurance. And so, but they want this funeral.
Right.
Like, they're really going to be there, listening to the singers themselves,
Right.
They're not. But, oh, don't cremate me, because I want this big, big, big thing. And we don't have any money. We don't have any insurance. And so one thing that I realized is that Mom did not have enough. And at her health age, at her age and her health,
right.
we couldn't get any more.
Yeah.
So that meant we had to go in our pockets. I had to go in my pockets and really like pay for she had enough to do the funeral, but not enough to open the ground. Right. And to bury her. So we had to physically and financially go in our own pockets. And you're going to do what you're going to do. But, right. A GoFundMe is not an insurance policy.
Right.
And, I work with a lot of churches and a lot of pastors, and all they want to do is, they will always saying, hey, a GoFundMe and coming to the church is not the answer.
Right.
Get some insurance, and we're not here to put your family away, because the church would go broke if they did. So talk some about that.
One of the things you got to think about too, when your mother took those policies out 40 years ago or whatever it was, that sounded like a lot of money.
It did.
You think about inflation, cost of living, increases in the cost of goods and services over 40 years. So, now that money that seemed sufficient 40 years ago is not close 40 years later.
That's right.
And so that's one of the other things we help people do. We look at the long-term picture, and then, like, when we do a plan, we'll include the cost of a funeral. And because my mother died in 2015, and so you look at the average cost. I'm not talking about all what you said with the white horses and
right, just the regulation one, right?
Just a regular, to put somebody in the ground and have a regular funeral is probably gonna cost you about $15,000, give or take, depending on what state you live in.
That's right.
And that's today's cost.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, 20, 25 years from now, that's only going up. So, those things you have to factor in. So, when you're developing your plan, there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration. Let's say you're married and one of the other passes away. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you have a loss of income. Then
that's
what?
Right.
So if the primary breadwinner passes and you've not worked and the primary breadwinner to handle all the finances, all of a sudden you don't know what anything is. You don't know if you've got life insurance. You don't, these are things you need to know, and you need to have access to the paperwork.
Yes.
For, yourself or your spouse, or, in my case, my daughter needs to have that information so that if I check out, she knows where all my paperwork is, my insurance paperwork, et cetera, et cetera. So, and it's eye-opening sometimes when you show people. I got a young guy I used to coach. He's 32 now. He wanted to take out some life insurance. He said, "How much you think I need?" I said, "Well, you just got married. You just had a son. You need at least $1 million." What? $1 million? I said, what happens if something happens to you? And now your wife's got to take care of your son for 16 years. I said, so it's not that we want to take that $1 million and spend it down. We want to take that $1 million and invest it and allow her to live off the principal. Yeah. So now financially, she's in a good place, and she can send your son off to school and whatever. And then now she's in a solid financial place. So
yes,
just simple things like that, is what we do to try to help people.
That's just so good because, thinking about the fact that it is eye-opening. It was eye-opening for me to know that my mom didn't have enough insurance. And it is an eye-opener to know that, it's like getting that diagnosis of being sick or being terminal. And then what are you going to do? We talk to a lot of small businesses. Mm-hmm. We talk to a lot of ministry leaders, entrepreneurs. There's another component to that. And this is something that I have been really, really thinking about because I know of an up-and-coming beautiful business owner that went on vacation and didn't come back. And this guy was really, really moving up in the cosmetology industry and just really making some things happen. He was 37 years old. And I don't know if things were prepared for him in terms of he thought about at 37, who do I leave my business to? How does my business continue to move forward? I hope he did, but it made me start to think like, okay, am I going to leave my business to somebody? So those are the things that you have to take inventory. I think if we talked about just the inventory alone, Robert,
right. Yeah, it's
a lot. It's eye-opening just to inventory like, okay, not only my personal life, but my business. Mm-hmm. Do I have enough insurance? Mm-hmm. Can I survive? Do I have, there are people out here that don't have medical insurance.
Right.
And
that's one of the major costs when you retire.
That's one of the major costs when you retire. And so there are just so many components of the inventory process that you need to take into consideration before we can even talk about what step 2 could be. And what could step 2 be, Robert? Talk about what step 2 could be.
Well, I think in preparing to win the game, when you take inventory, that's who we are. That's who my team is. That's our team's identity.
Okay.
And when we gather all those facts, that's our identity. Then you got to have a plan.
Yeah.
And then in that, you got to have some discipline. Mm-hmm. So that's step 2 is discipline and the plan.
So number 2 is discipline. That's good.
And so once we have that plan, even when I coach now, I talk about execution. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, the first thing people think about is on the offensive end. I say, yeah, that's cool. But more importantly, on the defensive end, I said, we can't just run around with no plan, no strategy. I said, we have to have a plan. Or if we're playing the Brooklyn Nets and we got to see KD and Kyrie, we've got to have some strategy on how we're going to defend those guys. We want to limit their numbers.
That's right.
On the defensive end, and then we've got to be able to try to take advantage of them on the offensive end. So that's a two-way street. So gather the facts, have a plan, then we got to begin to execute that plan. And so that's going to incorporate your timeline. So where you are today versus where you want to be when you retire, and that changes. We have to meet once a year, sit down and talk about what's changed.
That's good.
Maybe you have kids at home. Maybe they're
Mhm.
gone. Maybe they came back.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm sure people are familiar with that. Maybe one spouse wanted to retire early. Maybe a
Mm.
spouse passes. I mean, so life changes all the time, and so in your plan, we have to have room for adjustments.
Ah,
And
that's good.
so as we go, we're constantly monitoring and making adjustments to the plan so that we keep our eyes on the prize, and then we
Mm.
have a chance to arrive at that destination in good financial shape.
No, that's good. We have a couple comments out here on Facebook. Denise Armstrong, she says, "What's your approach if you're self-employed?" That's a good question.
That's a very good question.
Thank you, Denise.
Very good question, Denise. I think two things. One, you've got to have a good tax professional
Hmm.
because they are going to help you stay in good position financially. Because I can give you some ideas, but it's certainly in our industry, they always say the term is defer to the qualified professional.
Mm-hmm.
That is not me when it comes to taxes. So
Mm-hmm.
have you a good tax person. In fact, I've got one of my friends from high school does tax. He's really good, and he works with a lot of business owners. Lives in the Atlanta area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'll get you his name
Okay.
uh, after we get off the show. But and then two, you got to have a good advisor, and they
Mm-hmm.
need to work hand in hand to help you develop that plan. Because one of the things you're going to deal with as a business owner is how do I manage my finance? You managing your finances is going to be different.
Yes.
Right? So yeah, I'm getting paid. Maybe that's in cash. Well, what about quarterly taxes? I'm paying my
Mm.
taxes. Well, what about how do I pay my bills and put some money away for retirement? How do I structure that? What about
Yes.
life insurance? What about benefits? What about health insurance, dental
Wow.
vision, cancer, hospital indemnity? What about those things? So a good advisor can help you with probably 60% of that, and a tax person can help you with the other 40%. And that's going to help you comprise a good plan. And so when you sit down and then you say, okay, take a look at this plan. And then you can see where you are. We've gathered the facts, we've gathered the inventory. We can look at the steps that we need to take so you can have, in fact, it was what's funny. When I say I'm an investment advisor, most people have no idea what that means.
Mhm. Right. Okay.
And so I changed that a few years ago. Most people ask me now, I say, I help you sleep better at night. And so the natural
No.
follow-up question is, well, how do you do that?
How do you help me sleep better?
So I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine some years back. He had a independent business owner, made really good money.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sat down one day and started talking. I said, all right, do you have a succession plan?
That's good.
No. I said, well, what? Okay, you're not going to work all your life. At some point, you're going to want to go and do what you want to do. What are you going to do with your business? I don't know. Okay, well, we need to think about that. All right, so you have a considerable assets. He wasn't married, didn't have kids. So what do you want to do with your assets? He said, I don't know. I said, get in the car.
Wow.
I drove him down to my attorney. Well, not my attorney, but we have a really good estate planning attorney here in town, the qualified professional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I said, you don't need a will. You need a trust.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm going to take you to one of the best trust guys in the state of North Carolina. And I said, take your checkbook because you're going to write him a check today.
Yeah.
And he said, well, and man, once we got through the whole process, he said, oh, I see now. And I said, it took a couple of months to kind of pull it all together.
Mm-hmm.
But once we did, I said, now don't you sleep better at night? I said, because if something happened to you today, you know exactly what's going to happen with your business and your assets. If you live to be another 50 years, you know exactly how much money you're going to have coming in. You know, when you decide to retire, you're going to have X amount coming in per month. We're going to reduce during that process. We're going to reduce your debt so that you have next to no debt when you retire, and you go live the lifestyle that you want to live. And then with your business, you can. We got to a point where he could either pass it on to somebody in his family, or he could sell it.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
that's what you're dealing with right now. So
Hmm.
you know, are your kids going to want to take over what you do?
Exactly.
Is my
And
daughter is my daughter going to be a financial advisor? She don't
right,
want to do what I do.
right, right. That's
So
so true.
we need to have a succession plan as well. So there's a lot, again,
No,
gathering
that's true.
that data, that inventory. It encompasses a lot of different things, especially for business owners.
That is so true because my son and I sat down a couple weeks ago and had lunch, and I started, we were discussing the gentleman because we both knew him, and I was saying, I don't. I was like, so what do you think's going to happen to his business? Like, and he was like, I don't know, and I was like, wow. I said it made me start to really think as a business owner. Do you want this business?
Right.
Do or do you don't know what to do with it? Like, I don't know what to do with mom's business,
Right.
or her clients. I mean, I can notify everybody and say she's no longer here, but I don't know what to do with the business. I don't know her standard operating procedures. I don't
Right.
understand what she's doing. So what do I do with it? And so am I prepared to have my business portfolio set to the point where it can be sold and that it can really, benefit them,
Right.
because, the Bible talks about a good man lays up an inheritance for his children and his children's
Right.
children. And one of the interesting things that Denise was saying out here, which we were both laughing about, I was kind of thinking about, she talked about the paperwork.
Right.
you know, Unfortunately, in our community, we never know where the paperwork is. Can I be real, Robert? Can I just be real?
That's the fourth time you took me
That's
back.
did I say? I'm taking you away. I'm just being real because that's the truth. And that's why I
Right.
wanted to have you come on
Right.
because I want us to speak out loud about the real issues. And the real issues are we don't know where the paperwork, the number of family members that have gone on to be with Jesus.
Right.
And they say, have you found the insurance papers yet?
Right.
Interesting enough, here's a story. So my mom dies, and then my mom left me power of attorney. Before she left, she left me power of attorney of my mentally ill sister who was institutionalized
Right.
in Pennsylvania. So my sister has a knee surgery, okay, and contracts toxic shock syndrome
Hmm.
and pass. I had to take her off life support and pass away.
Wow.
Tragic, just tragic, right?
Yeah.
And so now I knew that mom had left me the responsibility of carrying on making her insurance payments because mom made her insurance payments for my sister just to make sure that we could take care of her. And I'll never forget, it was so surreal. Like I literally had to identify her body and was at the undertaker after they took her from the hospital. And so I'm in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. At that time, I lived in Tampa, Florida, but I'm in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. And the undertaker said, okay, I'm so sorry for your loss. And so how are you going to take care of this? I mean, within the same breath,
Right.
we've received her body, all is well. How are you going to take care of this? And so we were going to have her cremated and have her ashes shipped. And I'm like, well, I know she has insurance, but I was here I literally was there visiting my sister for surgery and she
Right.
passed away. And I'm like, so like I have her policies at home, and they were like, well, would you like to just leave us a deposit? Now I'm slipping my card across the table just so that they can prepare everything. They wanted money up front before I could go and, take care of the policy. So
Right.
I took care of that. And then I got the policy and I remember going in to go ahead and do the policy claim and realized that my mom had just put a few little stock aside
Mm-hmm.
in my sister's name. And so I'm there and they were saying, do you think that did your sister have any stocks? I mean, you're on the computer. Did your sister have? I'm like, no, my sister ain't had no stock. My sister ain't know nothing about no stock.
Right.
And do you know they ran her social security number and ran all that stuff? And she had stock. She had about $2,000 just sitting out there in stock. So, but it's interesting enough that I knew where the policies were because mom had given me all the policy papers for her
Right.
prior to early. But the number of people that don't know what they have,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing left. There's no list of things. One of the things that my mom did was mom left me a list even a list of names. She was very detailed. First of all, she planned her own funeral.
Right.
She planned her own funeral, picked out her own coffin, did all that stuff, which was really freaking me out and kind of weird. But she had a list of names of people to call and notify that we didn't even know about. They were friends of hers to call these people. She had a call tree, back in the old school. I'm taking you back. That's number 5. Taking you back to the old school call tree, right? But that was somebody who was prepared and planned for everything. She just had, insufficient insurance for today, or that was back in 2005 when she died. But the number of family members that I know of that don't know where they're like, have you found the papers? Because you can't even begin to process anything. And today the undertakers and funeral homes, they're like, if you can't find the papers, can you slip some money across the table? Can you give us a card? And if you're not prepared for that because you don't know where the papers are, and so you're tearing up the house looking for the paper. Denise was out there, kind of chuckling about that. It's like, we don't know where the paperwork is, Robert. We don't know. So it's not in a safety deposit box. It's somewhere under mama's bed or it's under the mattress. We have to stop living like this.
Right.
We have to stop living like this. So, this has been really an eye opener for us. We learned that we need to take inventory. We need to have a discipline, number 2, discipline plan, and then execute. I can't believe we've been out here now. And it's almost 56 minutes. And I really have a couple more questions. I know this is such a great conversation. You'll have to come back. I ask
anytime. Well, you know what? There's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
And really, the problem is we're so consumed with our lives. We had to hustle to get to where we are. We had to raise a family.
Yes.
We got grandkids. And we don't take the inventory. We don't look at how our lives are going to be at a certain stage down the road.
Yeah.
And how we're going to get there. So that's why you need qualified professionals. You need a good attorney.
Yes.
You need a good tax person. You need a good advisor.
Yes.
And they can help you put together those things. Like I'm usually the central guy because I start gathering the data and I say, hey, maybe you need a trust. I need to connect you with a trust. Maybe you need a tax because again, I'm not qualified to do taxes at that level. So you need those people in your corner. You need that list you talk about. You need for lack of a better word, end of life list. In checklists. What happens? Where's my paperwork? How's this whole thing going to work? You need not only do you need a will or a trust, but you need a power of attorney. You need a medical power of attorney.
Yes.
Is there a do not resuscitate order? And so all those things. And if you haven't dealt with it, trust me, it's hard to do at a time of loss. You do not want to be looking at papers and life insurance policies and all that stuff at a time of loss because you're grieving.
That's right.
And as much as you are grieving, you still got to go through that process. When my mother died, I was the executor of her estate. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of legal steps you have to take.
That's right.
I don't care how much you're crying and how bad you feel it. If you got to plan a funeral,
That's
you got to move the body. You got to pay for things. You got to take our ads in the paper. You got to look at what's left from the estate. There's an entire list of things you got to do. So, but if you get ahead of it, if we gather that data and take inventory and do a good job on the front end, the whole process all the way to the end is better. And again, like I said,
a lot better.
Then you will sleep better at night.
And that is the key. I love that because I think that the number of us who, I try to solve world peace at night when I'm sleeping, and that's not cancer, world peace. And so a lot of times it's because, I am thinking about, okay, what do I have to do tomorrow? So we have our normal daily life issues that we've got to deal with. But we do, and we don't, as a people, we don't want to talk about what happens to this body at the end.
Right.
And it's hard for a lot of people. I don't want to talk about it. I
Oh
had a
God,
sister.
I dealt with that a lot.
Yeah, I had a sister who was like, don't talk to me about mom's stuff.
Right.
Don't want to hear about it. Nope. Mom, she'll handle it. And literally like planning her whole funeral, she did it herself. I just helped her with, well, here's a great undertaker. We've known
Right.
them for a while. They do a lot of stuff with our church. So,
Right.
you can talk to them. And matter of fact, the guy who took care of my mom's body, I'm still good friends with him right now.
Wow.
And trust me, he was so gentle and so beautiful with my mom and just took such good care of her. We're still good friends. He now owns his own funeral company named Legacy, and he's just doing amazing work. But he really, really, really helped me. And he said to me, he says, there's a lot of people, because my mom was in hospice. He said, there's a lot of people that come to me that are not prepared.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but your mom was really prepared.
Right.
Well, she had 30 days to get all her affairs in orders, and she did.
Mm-hmm.
And she made me help her do a lot of them, which kind of freaked me out. But he said he'd never had anybody come in prepared with a packet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even the presidents do that now, right? I mean, when you become president or vice president or somebody high in office, one of the things that you have to do is have your succession plan ready.
Absolutely.
You have to have your end of life things done.
Yep.
So we don't ever want to think about that, because it's just like, oh, that's just, well, what do you think what's going to happen to your body? It's best that you can advise someone, advise your children, advise your family members as to what to do. Hey, here is the combination.
Right.
Here's where everything is. Put all the paperwork, guys. Put the paperwork in one place.
We call it governing from the grave.
Oh, that's good.
Because you have to, when you're gone, you still have things that you need done. You're just not here physically to do it. So somebody's got to carry out your wishes and desires when you're gone. And, maybe that's closing out your financial matters. Maybe that's the funeral. Maybe that's things with your business, and that's when you need to have a succession plan. And, so when you check out, you still need to have a plan in place. It seems strange.
That's right.
You still need to have a plan.
And it leaves stress on your family. Because interesting enough, and you probably know this yourself, but the creditors called. You have to deal with everybody who reads the obituaries that wants to sell me a headstone. They want to do all of that stuff. And then the creditors is like, okay, my mother's can I speak to Christine White? Well, no, she's deceased. Well, okay, well, prove it. Do you have a death certificate? It was, because they probably get that all the time on the phone. I know she's not here. She's dead. Right. And it's like, nah, she's not dead. She's over there eating some potato salad in a corner, and she's not dead. Right. But y'all just lying. If the bill collectors call, tell them I'm dead. And so they're like, send that. And so, you deal with the person that, if they're sick, you deal with them during the sickness. Then you have to do the end of life situations. You have to, whether you're taking them off life support or they pass on, you deal with that. I didn't grieve my mother until months later.
Right.
Months later, because there was work before, there was work when she passed, and then there was the post work. You got to get all the family in, and the family don't have no money.
Right.
That's why we talked last week with Carol Hunter, the money mender, because their money was always broke. Right. And so you don't have anything that is prepared. You don't have an emergency fund that says, oh, so-and-so died. We've got to go say goodbye to them and have a funeral. And so we can't get to the funeral because we ain't got no money. Right. And we can't come and say goodbye because, I ain't get my check yet. And I can't get, it's just, so we need people like you, Robert. Thank you so much. Like, we need you. We need people like you. I'm running your Facebook. Do I have it right? It's the Wealth Coach 7. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay. And so I want people to get in touch with you. I want people to talk to you. You're doing some community work now, right? Aren't you doing some stuff in your community?
Yeah, I do a lot of, I work with some churches like you do. I work with some different groups. I'm starting to work with some youth groups to talk about financial literacy.
Okay.
the importance of economic empowerment. How do we
That's
get there?
good.
What does that mean? How, if I can catch them at 15, that's great. But
Oh,
sometimes
that's
I catch them
great.
at 45. That's great
That's
too.
right.
But at least there's a starting point.
Yeah.
If you can get to a starting point, then you got a chance to win the game.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
yeah, so we do a lot with just basic budgeting, uh,
Mm-hmm.
saving versus investing. What are the differences? What are the different vehicles?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then we get into more detailed things about different investments when you
Mm-hmm.
start working 401k, 403b, IRAs, that kind of thing. So just educating people, because if I can get you to hear it when you're in high school, maybe something
Mm.
sticks.
Yeah.
Then when I get in the working world, I remember that guy talked to me about going, and you know what?
Right.
And that can change generations. Think about it. If one person gets
Oh,
it,
yes. That's
and then I
good.
raise my family and they get it, and then they
Mm-hmm.
raise their families and they get it. And then all
Yes.
of a sudden, we've changed the course of our community
Yes.
through financial literacy.
No, I think that's really awesome. And I just had an idea, and I'll talk to you offline about it. But there are just a lot of churches that need you. And I work with a lot of churches, but what I'm thinking is that there are a lot of churches that need you. I know pastors that will say this, and I have heard this come out of their mouths. I'm going to be in this pulpit until the Lord takes me home.
Right.
And they usually drop dead in the pulpit, and the church really, and I've known some of them that have died in the pulpit, or,
Mhm.
you know, and the church is now sitting going, what are we going to do? Where, what's the assets of the church like?
Right.
What do we need to do next? And so I just recently helped a pastor do a succession plan.
Mhm.
And my pastor at my church went through a succession plan, and it was brilliant.
Mhm.
It was really, really brilliant. He was like, hey, you know what? We are the founders of this church. But you know what? It's time to pass the baton over to the next generation. We're going to be like the grandparents now. We're going to come in and preach every now and then, and we're going to make appearances at the church, but we're passing the day to day on to the next generation.
Right.
And what I see, and I'm going to say it like this, what I see in the Black community, because I don't know too much about any other community. I can only speak about my community. But what I see in the Black community is that we don't have a succession plan in our churches. Our pastors don't have it. And so we need people like you to really educate pastors and churches on how to prepare themselves for the next phase of life, because they're not going to listen, they can't hoop and holler in the pulpit for
Forever.
the rest of their lives.
I,
And
I,
then the
I've got to
church
follow up.
just falls apart.
I've got to follow up this week. I talked to it was not an individual church. I can't remember the denomination. I talked to their main office.
Okay.
I said, hey, why don't we put in a 401k or an IRA option at the main office level, benefits, medical, dental, vision, all that, so that because you're a member of the association, if you need to access it, if I'm Church A in Smyrna and Church B over here in Atlanta, we can all access the same options.
Yeah.
So that we can kind of pick and choose what we need based on our budget and based on our pastor's needs to provide a solid benefit package for those pastors. So
That's right.
include, retirement being one of them, and then benefits being the other. And
That's
so,
right.
and you begin to do it at a group level, you get better rates.
Yes.
So, and I ran that idea by a gentleman, and I think he thought I was crazy at first. And this was probably 6 months ago.
Wow.
And then out of the blue, he called me back last week. He said, you remember talking to me about 6 months ago? I said, yeah. He said, let's get together and talk about that idea again. Information is key. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. So, now we can help the churches be in better financial shape.
That's right.
Better bit of succession plan shape.
Mm-hmm.
So that now we start raising our money. We feel good about a pastor. We got a plan. Our pastors feel good because now I can go be a pastor and not have to work a full-time job and a
That's
part-time job,
right.
just
That's
so I can have some
right.
benefits. And then now, so spiritually, he's able to work with the flock better because
Mm-hmm.
he's free to be a full-time pastor, or he or she. And so again, in this day and age, we got to do a little bit of outside the box thinking in
Yes.
preparation for, again, financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, spiritual freedom.
That's right.
And so now, if you're financially free and you're spiritually free, you can go live the life that you want to live.
You can sleep at night.
Absolutely.
You can sleep at night, and we want our pastors to be able to sleep at night. We want our members to be able to sleep at night, because the worst thing in the world is to have this challenge and don't have, have something come up and you don't have the money, because
Right.
emergencies come up. We don't have a reserve. We don't have an emergency plan
Right.
set up for anything. And so I'm going to talk to you about some stuff offline.
Okay.
I had a couple
Right.
ideas where we could maybe collaborate, because as I said, I work in the church space a lot, and I would really love to introduce you to some of my church clients and maybe connect you so that you can at least come in and just help the churches really, really prepare themselves individually,
Mhm.
as well as the pastors from a corporate standpoint, to prepare themselves to transition sweetly and smoothly out with a succession plan, because a lot of them don't. Hello, Diola. Diola says, I know Diola very well. We both work for the same client. So true and so needed. And I'm really, really I'm grateful for that. You're right, Diola. And so this is great information. Robert, thank you so much. But before we leave, hey, I just would love for you to just kind of look in the camera and just share something special to someone who's listening today about what we need to do to prepare ourselves, and how can we become better stewards over our own lives, finances, and wealth.
Well, I would say, one, you don't need a lot of money to work with a financial advisor. I get that all the time. What we do is help people build a plan. So wherever you are, if you've got $1 million or $1,500, if you start today and you start gathering that data, gathering your inventory, and we build a plan, then you can start seeing yourself walking in financial freedom. I've been challenged here lately about, in my meditation time, about, where am I headed on my path? And and this is a whole nother show, Lynette. But
Let's do it.
spiritually, God's saying you got to be able to see yourself free in your mind first. Think about all the scriptures that refer to the heart. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And you don't actually ordinarily think about thinking in your heart, but really that's the center of your emotions. So that's where your center of love and care and compassion come from. So if I can see myself in my mind, and I can think in my heart that I am going to be free, then God will make a way. That's just spiritual law. But we've got to be able to see it in our minds first. And so, you got to challenge yourself to see, all right, can I get out of this rat race? Can I get out of this day to day? Can I really be financially free? And you got to say yes to that. And then listen, and I literally just did this myself. Go and search the internet. Look at the pictures of what you think financial freedom means. Make a vision board, or take those pictures and put them somewhere where you're going to see them every day. And then you got to see yourself doing those things. And listen, the good news is it's up to God to work that out. There's a wonderful book. I actually listened to it. The Game of Life and How to Play It. Scoville Shin is her last name. I want to say Florence Scoville Shin, but you can go to YouTube, look it up. You can listen to it free on YouTube. It's about God's plan for your life on this earth and how to walk it out. And it will change the way you see the world, and it will change the way you see yourself. And if you could see yourself, again, not just rich, because rich don't mean happy, wealthy, that means I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wise, I'm peaceful, I got joy, I got great family, I got love. Those are the things that you want. Because if you're rich and you got nobody to share it with, that means nothing. If you're rich and you're sick, that means nothing. So you got to challenge yourself to see yourself in a different place in life. And then you got to walk that out. God will help you do it. And the good news is, you're going to say, I don't know how. Not my issue, God's issue. Trust me, he's got a way to work that out for you. He can bring things in to pass in ways that you can't imagine, because his ways are not like our ways. So take the pressure off of you and connect with God and say, God, hey, look, God, I need to change in my life. I feel like, somewhere along the way I got off track. I made some bad decisions and I haven't been able to recover from them. That's how you connect with God. And God will say, look, I'll show you the way. Don't worry about it. I got you. I got you. And he'll start bringing the right things and the right people into your life to the point where you'll know it's God showing up. And you'll know, okay, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. And that's God beginning to walk that out in your life and is bringing those things to pass in your life, so that, because he wants all his children to be peaceful, loving, joyous, happy, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get into that at another show then. But that's
wow.
That's what I wanted to share. And thank you for the time. This has been
so
amazing.
Beautifully said. No, thank you.
Hour and 15 minutes was very
I know, but I just, it's so refreshing to know. And I knew I wasn't wrong when I felt like, okay, I need to ask Robert to come on and talk about the wealth mindset, being Financial Literacy Month, and how to really put some plans together, because this is what Speak Out Loud is all about.
Right.
We really want to help people be better. I had somebody ask me, what do you want from this show? And I said, simply to help hold up the arm of a person who's doing the work as well.
Right.
And so if I can stand and hold up your arm, because, in the work, it gets tired. Mm-hmm. But if I can hold your arm up for a while, and then you say, okay, I got it, I can hold it up some more. And then you say, hey, Ned, I need some help. Come on and just hold my arm up. That's really what I want to do. I wanted to be able to help other people become best and great at what they are doing. So Mr. Robert Brickey, our wealth advisor, he is the Speak Out Loud wealth advisor. So now I've deemed you to be the Speak Out Loud wealth advisor. And we'd love to have you come back on, maybe help us do a checkup on our finances once a quarter. And let's see how we can work together and help people. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much for honoring and blessing the Speak Out Loud audience today, Robert. I really, really thank God for you.
Thank you. It's been an honor. And anytime, we've got a number of topics we can talk about.
Yes.
And again, and then, if you let me know ahead of time, because I have to get all these things approved through compliance, but a lot of it's pre-approved. I just have to put paperwork through. But we can talk about specific topics if you want to get into them.
Oh, great. Yeah, because you said something, trust versus will, and I wrote that down. I'm like, we need to know about that, the difference. So we'll have to have a conversation where we can talk about, what is a trust versus a will, and this is a very thing. But you really laid down some beautiful nuggets for us today to get us thinking. If nothing else, we need to own our numbers, and it's really hard when we get on the scale for the first time. We don't want to get on the scale. We know we gain weight.
Right.
But we don't want to get on the scale. And I'm like, see that. But the key thing is that if you don't know where you are, you will never know where you can go.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate you so much. And thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, I'm excited about our guest today, Mr. Robert Brickey, who has really made us think like we've never gone this far over, but I just was feeling like let it flow and let it ride. We had comments out here. Folks are saying, making comments and asking questions, which is really good. And so I just wanted to keep the conversation going so that we can learn a little bit more about what we need to do to prepare for our future. So you can really say, dear future, I am ready. Please like and share this podcast. This podcast is here on Tuesday nights live on Facebook and YouTube. And on Thursday nights, last week, we just started KBCN TV. And so you can download it on the Roku channel and sit back, relax, and have some popcorn and enjoy the show. We're so excited that you have joined us today for Speak Out Loud. And we want to make sure that you're here. Please like and share. And if you have any comments and any ideas for show topics, please, please, please let us know. Before we go, I just want to let you know that God loves you. I love you. But hey, most importantly, learn to love yourself. Bye for now.
You've been watching Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand with your host, Lynette Jackson. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. And until next week, don't forget to use your voice to speak out loud.